getting into the final hour of the Situation Room for today, this lovely Tuesday, the 6th day of August 2024. How are you doing? Karibu sana, and thank you very much for everybody who's tuned in wherever and across the globe. In the next hour, we want to talk about youth and innovation. Youth and innovation. Sounds like, it's a cliche. It's one of those things that vijana wapate nafasi za ajira, vijana watengeneze vitu, waingie kwa kompyuta, wafanye nini. Hey.
Automate wheelbarrow.
All these things, it sounds like. But then, there's somebody who's actually tasked with making sure that these things happen, and they happen well. He's the CEO of the Kenya National Innovation Agency, KENIA, Kenya. He is Dr. Tony Mwansa. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning. Thanks very much for having me here. You're right. That's what I'm tasked to do every day. Yeah.
Now you move that thing from just rhetoric to practical reality.
That's correct.
Youth, innovation, and making sure that the youth who are innovating are making a living out of it.
That's
and they're
correct.
driving change for the country. We'll talk about that.
Absolutely.
But first, one of the innovative things that you need to do is think about your own body, all right? And that is making sure that at least you are healthy. You are trying as much as possible to be healthy. And you try as much as possible to be healthy by knowing the health status of your body. Unaenda, unaingia, unainuliwa juu, wanafanya check. Wanaangalia kama umepoteza alignment. Wanaangalia kama una leak oil. Wanaangalia kama tires zimeisha nini?
Kama shock absorber.
Kama shock absorber zimeisha.
Sema sakamzoba.
Sakamzoba. Wanaangalia kama sakamzoba hata iko sawa.
Yes.
Kama unamwaga oil. Hizo vitu zote they check.
Ball joint. Joint iko sawa.
Yes?
Kabisa.
All those things. Na brake pads zinafanya kama zina need replacement. Yeah. So that happens at the Aga Khan University Hospital and its clinics across the country. Okay? Only 9,950. You get a comprehensive medical checkup. It's good to do it once every year. Because when you do it, then you see how you're faring. And you get a conversation with the medics that tell you, the last time you're here, your BMI ilikuwa hapa. Sahi mahali imefika sijui nini umekula.
You're not moving. Unakula na unaiacha inakaa hapo kwa mwili.
You need to do something more. Hii mafuta itumike. Right?
Na miaka haisongi nyuma.
So it's important to do that.
Absolutely.
Aga Khan University Hospital, clinics, go to the nearest one in your hood. Ask them for comprehensive medical checkup. It begins at 9,950. City.
Yes.
But here, Dr. Mwansa, the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the Republic of Botswana. To give away is to make provision for the future.
To give away is to make provisions for the future. Dr. Mwansa, what do you make of this proverb?
I was going to say, kiongozi, fafanua.
Yes, ufafanuaji wa leo ni wewe utahitajika ufafanue. Yes, tafadhali.
So, you're giving away, and by implication, you're doing what?
You're making provisions for the future.
Correct.
Yes.
Because that, if you keep everything that you have, knowledge, resources, and so on and so forth, it can only be for you. Now, you can only use it so much.
Yes.
All right? But if you let go and give someone else, a child, and build a youth, and build somebody else, give them the resources, give them your time, give them your knowledge, you're actually creating possibilities of the future. That's my interpretation based on what I've not been to Botswana, though.
Your interpretation is perfect. You look to me like somebody who is church-going and God-fearing.
Ni kweli.
teach a child in the teach a child in the way they should go, and when they are grown up, they will not depart from it. So you are giving instructions at an early age. That child grows up with it, and they become the person they are as a result of what they have been given.
Absolutely. And sometimes there are many things we may have wanted to do and we are not able to do for one reason or another. But based on the experiences and the knowledge that we have acquired, we give them to someone.
Yes.
Empower them. You give them a head start.
Yes.
Then you're creating a better future than it is now.
Very good. Very good. And that's why the youth need people like someone like you at the helm of the Kenya National Innovation Agency. So what's that, though?
So the Kenya National Innovation Agency, a semi-autonomous government institution that was created by an act of parliament to try and develop the national system of innovation. What that really means is, can you optimize? You know, when you say something is a system, you have just used an example of a body. You say, hii part inafanya namna gani, hii part inafanya namna gani, and so on and so forth. So what we try to do is think about education system, think about financing, think about private sector contribution, how solutions get absorbed and consumed and scaled and developed. Think about the policies and so forth. So when you say a system, you're meaning several components. Then you say, now these components individually must operate optimally, and then they must interact. So you're trying to build a system that then helps ideas to come to fruition and grow into scalable solutions that create opportunities, jobs, and wealth, and solve challenges in society. Now, you know, many a times we'll say ideas will come from young people. Others will tell you ideas will come from researchers. Others will tell you come from innovators, and will define who that is. That idea and how it gets nurtured up the value chain until it is properly funded and becomes scalable is what I have to try and think about every day. That's what the Innovation Agency is really trying to crack.
So what do you do?
What do I do? Now I have to think about all those things and do all those things. One is, how is the policy environment that enables and cushions everyone who is playing in that value chain? From a funder, if there is an investor who wants to get some return, an investor must find that innovator. The incubation facilities need to function with best practices. You know, it's possible to set up an incubation facility and then exploit people. That researchers are thinking about their research outputs and go beyond that level. So we work a lot with institutions of higher learning to say, you know what, you don't end at a publication. Think about something else beyond this great idea that you have, all right? We're lobbying a lot for funding to support ideas to move up the value chain. We try to engage a lot with private sector, try and invite them to participate and be more organized in the way we participate in identifying ideas and supporting them. We spend a lot of time pulling together partners of different categories. You know, government come together with private sector and academia and think about the policies and the strategies and the methodologies. I'll give you one classic example of work I have done for the last 7 months or so. Would you say your universities are entrepreneurial?
No.
Kenyan universities?
Yeah?
No.
Classic example.
No, they wouldn't. But would I say that the students who are in our universities have an entrepreneurial spirit? I would say they do.
Absolutely, yes. Now, that student operates in an environment.
Yes.
That environment makes them better or same or worse. Now, we have a duty to strengthen the entrepreneurial potential of the university, which is now the environment where that student operates, in terms of how they are incentivized, how they are trained, the networks they build, the leadership and how it inspires them, the funding that they can access to develop their ideas further, and so on and so forth. So you can see, all problems are my problems.
So in the last 7 months, what have you done about the universities?
Good. So for the university, we did several things. One, we designed a maturity framework. You have to find a way to measure. When you say they are not, are they 0 or 1 or 2 or 10? And are they all the same level? All right? So first thing is measure.
University as an institution?
As an institution.
Okay.
So we designed a maturity framework that we use to measure, and we've digitized it, and we're able to evaluate.
And what are you measuring?
We measure
how many businesses a university runs?
Exactly. How many startups are you producing per year? How favorable is that environment?
Wait. How many startups are started by students in a university, or how many startups as a university?
So the student is in a university.
Yeah.
So the student is facilitating the graduation of that startup, the nurturing and development of that startup. So by and large, the student is the one building it anyway, but the university has to provide that environment,
So
and encourage and support and build partnerships, leverage the brand, basically.
Right.
And so the university has to have a target of how many startups will you produce through your students and faculty and researchers per year. That's an example of something to measure.
Okay.
How much money are you able to put to the student community who want to innovate? That's something to measure. How entrepreneurial are you as a leader? That's something to measure. And also show me the evidence that you have an entrepreneurial way of looking at things, your policy. How many incubation centers do you have? You know, there are universities that don't have a single incubation center. That's your idea.
Apart from KU, who else has one?
Exactly.
Well,
I didn't want to mention. There are a number that have.
Dead and Kimathi.
University of Nairobi has some facility. Okay. Even Kabrak, as an example, Strathmore University.
Yeah.
So those are parameters you can look at, all right? Internationalization. You know, it's very easy to think that you are top of the world until you see what the rest of the world does in this regard. There are universities I have met out there that say we produce one startup per day.
Per day.
That's our target, 365 per year.
Doctor, I want us to pause for a while and take a few steps back. Before one has an idea that eventually comes as a startup, do you train people in grant writing? Do you train them to understand how it is you can get money, how you can convince someone to actually give you money to do this thing that you want to do?
Yes. So, you have talked about grant.
Yeah.
You know, in the very early stages of innovations normally move from level 1 to 9. There is what we call technology readiness levels. Okay. Now, in your very early stages, 1 and 2, you will generally need grants to test your ideas, to get validate assumptions. So you must develop the skills to convince someone that money is better with me than with you. And I will make you look good by that which I do using your money.
Yes.
So I have to build a skill for grant writing. Absolutely, yes. And institutions, for example, like the National Research Fund, were designed specifically to do that TRL 1 and 2.
National Research Fund of which country?
Of any country.
We have one here.
This is why they were created. We have one here. Into the details of it. But you're right. That's early stages. It's about grants. It's about donations. It's about money from friends, money from family to help you test your ideas and get your assumptions right. Then as you move up, you start attracting angel investors, people who want a return for what you have. You move up the value chain, you get VCs who then also take equity and help scale your idea. So that in a nutshell, how it will move from level 1 to 9. Answered your question? Yes.
Partly, yes. You see, the reason why I started with the grant writing is this. The discipline required to actually be able to write a grant, which even gives you 2 shillings. Okay. Then the rigors of meeting the requirements of the person who actually gives you the grant. It's a process that is exceedingly valuable. So that by the time somebody has written a couple of them, they will have the gravitas to be able to actually understand, one, how you handle the funds, that how you actually put it into things you have said you will do. Mistakes will be made along the way. Why am I saying this? Because this is what grows on to what you've said, the 9, where now you get to a point where you even have an institute, meaning you've gotten the sort of funding, and if you're within an institution, that gives that institution the sort of reputation that enables it to create partnerships and also to get more money. Now,
you're right.
I don't see it happening with our universities. That's where I'm going with this discussion. I don't see it, which means it isn't being done enough. Now, tell us how it is that you and the entity that you are CEO of helps our institutions. It doesn't have to be a university. It could be a TVET. How you help them understand this process and how they can inculcate it into the process of learning that students have from the time they come in. So it's not just learning to look for a job. No, learning to create ideas that can actually make you money.
Super. So thank you very much. Now, as an institution, my job is to make sure that these institutions are doing that for their beneficiaries. So even before I go there, in our assessment of the institutions, we have level 1 to 5 in terms of how we assess the institutions. all universities that we've worked with in Kenya are either level 1 or 2 in terms of their maturity level as an entrepreneur institution. Why are they level 1 and 2? Several factors, and one of them being their capacity to train the student to attract money. Tuko pamoja sasa?
Yes, the human resource that is necessary to bring this to pass, yes.
There you go. The teaching and learning, how it's done to produce the entrepreneur. They have all agreed, by the way, it was a self-evaluation. It's not me who evaluating. It's self-evaluation. They evaluate themselves and they agree that we are actually at a fairly early stage. Now, after that, what we say is let's now help you to rethink the way your teaching and learning is taking place so that you can build more entrepreneurs, people who can attract money, among other things. Now, I cannot come and train all the 60-plus universities, but you have to build the systems internally. I will tell you what it means to have a good program that builds capacity in the young people, all right? And you implement it, and then you evaluate yourself, and I will also do evaluation, and we also do some peer evaluation. So the answer lies in getting the right partners at the implementation level and build the capacity of faculty to ensure that they can teach their students more appropriately. So one institution can't do it all. But somebody has to check someone else whether they are doing it right or not, and tell them what you need to do in order to do it right. And I do engage vice chancellors all the time about how would you ensure your system does it better, because you hold 10,000, 20,000 students around you. And we've worked with a number of partners to try and help review how the teaching and learning is taking shape, and then we evaluate again after another year. It's not an easy thing, but we have to keep doing it, and we must do it.
Do you insist that there must be an end goal for students and faculty in this respect? I am drawn to the example of Estonia, where they have a similar system, but part of the innovation is to source the funds, but also have a project which should be working by the time you actually exit that institution of learning. So meaning, when you exit, you can actually be self-employed.
Correct.
Okay? So it's actually practical. Now, this is not an idea you want to start when somebody goes to a higher institution of higher learning. This is something that somebody needs to be taught at an earlier stage.
At the earlier stages,
Yes.
yes.
So that when they get to university, it's just a continuum at a higher level.
Yes.
I'm saying this because if I look at something that hit our papers a while back about Kenyan students who are writing papers for people abroad. Successfully, not just writing, successfully. Well, it's innovation. So it means they can conceptualize, they can think, and they can write. How do you harness these talents at a younger age so that by the time they get to institutions of higher learning, all they're doing is now fine-tuning these skills, that they had.
So you've mentioned several points in there. One of them being, how do you ensure that students are not just completing academic outputs? And instead they are producing ventures. Now, unless, you have to direct that effort. And that's a decision that the university has to make. And I have engaged the Commission of University Education, for example, around the policy and the framework for teaching. So we call this venture-based learning or problem-based learning, all right? So we'll say, you're going to sign up with a problem.
No, problem-based learning or problem-solving-based learning?
We call it problem-based learning as a jargon, but it's about solving a problem.
Okay.
So it's problem-solving. That's correct, all right? So when you start with a problem, and you spend time to make sure you understand the problem. What problem could we be solving? Because it's a project and it has to be a venture at the end. And ventures are about solving specific challenges in society for which people want to pay for. All right? So if people have a pain point and you solve that pain point and they feel relieved from that pain, they pay for it, not once, but twice, and they become repeating customers. So that model has taken off. Not many universities are implementing, but Dedan Kimathi has actually begun to implement the venture-based program. So it's a master's program. and you come out with an enterprise at the end of it. Whether you choose to run with it after that, that's debatable, but a number of them actually, once you've created interest and exposed them, and it must be intrinsically motivated to solve that problem. So they must be very excited. They learn how to build the right teams, how to have complementary skills that will then tackle this and build an enterprise out of it. So that has already taken, that's part of what we evaluate institutions, that how are you shifting more from academic for purposes of producing a thesis to, I'll give you a classic example. When I was at University of Nairobi and I've taught, I started this program where I would say, I was teaching computer science students. I have everybody working on a small project. I said, why would you all work on a small project and then after 6 months you hand a report and you go away? Why don't we organize you in teams and you create an ERP? Yeah, each of you create a module on the ERP and produce an ERP and from there build an enterprise out of it. In fact, the other day I was beginning to ask how many universities are using a non-Kenyan ERP. And it's mind-boggling.
What an ERP is to our
enterprise resource planning
yes.
system, which is one that enables you to manage an organization end to end, from procurement to finance to human resource to, Now, building such a system does require your ability to understand an organization and then create something that enables them to track the data all the way to sales and so on and so forth. And the amount of money that we are spending on ERPs that are not developed locally is mind-boggling. I'm not here to mention numbers, but it is worrying. It's a worrying trend because we are always buying a solution from somewhere out there. And those are the opportunities we should be creating for the youth. Every other day we say that the youth are amazing, very talented, but they should not always work for someone. We create an environment for them to create these kind of solutions. And I have tested that environment. Now, on the issue as to can you come earlier in the growth of a child so you expose them? Absolutely. That's part of why CBC was being created, to diversify the thinking and create more interest in entrepreneurship. I just looked at the Vision 2030 and I learned that the dream we have is to have a dynamic and empowered youth in leadership and entrepreneurship for a globally competitive country.
What exactly does that statement mean?
Thank you. The depth of it, whether you're building your next generation to become effective leaders and entrepreneurs. And that effectiveness, I feel we still have a lot of ground to cover in the way we build our young generation to be more entrepreneurial. So you're right that at earlier stages, there are many players who are active, institutions like Young Scientist Kenya, to try to build more entrepreneurial mindset at the early stage, so that by the time you get to college, you are more about building practical solutions for society.
Let's take a break at that note. Dr. Tony Omwansa is the CEO of the Kenya National Innovation Agency. Basically, your main mission is to make sure that you're encouraging people to come up with ideas and to move those ideas from just their head into something that's practical.
Correct.
Many will fail, and then there are those that will succeed. And those that succeed, that's what we're looking for.
Correct.
So you need that environment to be working.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We continue this conversation shortly. 29 minutes to 10. Let's take a look at the weather, and then we come back.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.